In a small, quiet town in the southern part of the United States, there lived a woman named Evelyn Carter. Evelyn was not like everyone else in her town. While most people were content with their simple lives, Evelyn had dreams that stretched far beyond the boundaries of her little world. She was a woman full of energy, determination, and an unshakable belief in herself. But life wasn't easy for Evelyn. As a black woman growing up in a place where opportunities were scarce, she faced challenges that many others couldn't even imagine. From a young age, she learned to fight for everything she wanted, whether it was respect, education, or a chance to make her mark on the world. Evelyn's story began when she was just a teenager. Her father, who had been the backbone of their family, passed away unexpectedly. Overnight, Evelyn's world changed. With her mother struggling to make ends meet, Evelyn stepped up to help support her family. She took on 2 jobs, one at a local diner and another at a grocery store, working long hours after school. Despite the exhaustion, Evelyn never let her grades slip. She was determined to excel in school because she believed that education would be her ticket to a better life. But while her classmates dreamed of becoming doctors, lawyers, or teachers, Evelyn had a different dream. She wanted to be an entrepreneur. Even as a child, Evelyn had always been fascinated by business. She loved watching shows about inventors and entrepreneurs who turned simple ideas into groundbreaking innovations. She admired how they solved problems and created solutions that improved people's lives. But what truly inspired Evelyn was the idea of using business as a tool to help others. Growing up in a low-income neighborhood, she saw firsthand the struggles that families like hers faced every day: unaffordable housing, lack of access to basic resources, and limited opportunities for growth. Evelyn often wondered why no one had come up with a way to fix these issues. By the time she was in high school, she had already started dreaming up her own solutions. Her teachers, however, didn't share her enthusiasm. When Evelyn told them about her ambition to become an entrepreneur, they shook their heads and suggested she consider more practical careers. "Why don't you think about nursing or teaching?" one teacher advised. "Those are good, stable jobs." Evelyn nodded politely, but inside she felt frustrated. She knew that being practical wasn't going to change the world. Her friends weren't much more encouraging either. Whenever she shared her ideas, they laughed and teased her. "You're dreaming too big, Evelyn," they'd say. "No one listens to people like us." But Evelyn refused to let their words bring her down. She knew deep down that her ideas were valuable, even if no one else could see it yet. Every night after finishing her shift at the diner, she would sit at her kitchen table with a notebook and pen, sketching out plans and brainstorming solutions. One idea kept coming back to her: affordable housing. Evelyn had seen how hard it was for families in her community to find safe, decent homes they could afford. Rent prices were skyrocketing, and many people were forced to live in overcrowded apartments or dilapidated houses. Evelyn believed there had to be a better way. What if she could design homes that were not only affordable, but also eco-friendly and durable? It was a bold idea, but Evelyn was convinced it could work. As the years went by, Evelyn worked tirelessly to turn her dream into reality. After graduating high school, she enrolled in a community college, studying architecture and business management. She knew she needed the right skills to bring her vision to life. During the day, she attended classes, and at night she continued working her 2 jobs to pay for tuition. It was exhausting, but Evelyn never complained. She reminded herself of her goal every time she felt like giving up. By the time she was in her late 20s, Evelyn had saved enough money to start developing her prototype. She spent countless weekends visiting junkyards and hardware stores, collecting materials to build a model of her eco-friendly home. It wasn't glamorous work, but Evelyn didn't care. She was driven by the thought of creating something that could change lives. Slowly but surely, her prototype began to take shape. It was a small, compact house made from sustainable materials like recycled wood and solar panels. The design was simple yet innovative, incorporating features that maximized space and energy efficiency. Evelyn poured her heart and soul into every detail, determined to prove that her idea wasn't just a fantasy, it was possible. Despite her progress, Evelyn still faced skepticism from those around her. When she showed her prototype to friends and acquaintances, they dismissed it as impractical. "Who's going to invest in this?" one person asked. "You're competing with huge companies that have millions of dollars. How do you expect to succeed?" Even her own family had doubts. "Evelyn, maybe it's time to focus on something more realistic," her mother said gently one evening. Evelyn listened quietly, nodding as if she understood. But inside, she felt a familiar fire burning. She knew that proving her critics wrong wouldn't be easy, but she also knew she couldn't give up now. Determined to move forward, Evelyn decided to take her proposal to the next level. She spent months preparing a detailed presentation, complete with sketches, cost estimates, and market research. Then, armed with nothing but her confidence and a folder full of papers, she walked into a meeting with a group of investors from a well-known venture capital firm. They were powerful men in expensive suits, and Evelyn felt tiny sitting across from them in their polished boardroom. Still, she held her head high and began explaining her idea. She spoke passionately about her vision for affordable, eco-friendly housing and how it could transform communities. When she finished, the room fell silent for a moment. Then, one of the investors leaned back in his chair and chuckled. "This is cute, Evelyn, really," he said with a smirk. "But do you honestly think this could work?" Another chimed in. "You're talking about competing with billion-dollar companies here. What makes you think you can pull it off?" Their laughter echoed in the room, cutting through Evelyn like a knife. For a brief moment, she felt the weight of their doubt pressing down on her. But then something inside her shifted. Instead of crumbling under their ridicule, Evelyn smiled politely, thanked them for their time, and walked out of the room with her head held high. That day, as she drove home, Evelyn made a silent promise to herself. She vowed to prove those men wrong, not out of spite, but because she knew her idea had the potential to change the world. Little did they know, their laughter had only strengthened her resolve. Evelyn Carter was just getting started, and she wasn't going to stop until she achieved her dream. After leaving the boardroom that day, Evelyn returned home with a mix of emotions swirling inside her. On one hand, she felt hurt by the investors' dismissive laughter and condescending remarks. On the other hand, their skepticism ignited a fierce determination within her. She realized that if she wanted to succeed, she couldn't rely on others to believe in her vision. She had to believe in it herself, no matter how impossible it seemed. That night, sitting at her kitchen table with her prototype sketches spread out before her, Evelyn made a decision. She would take matters into her own hands. If no one else was willing to invest in her dream, then she would build it herself, brick by brick. The first step was research. Evelyn knew that her idea was innovative, but she also understood that innovation alone wasn't enough. She needed to make sure her design was feasible, cost-effective, and scalable. So she spent countless hours poring over books, articles, and online resources about sustainable architecture, construction techniques, and green energy solutions. Her tiny apartment became a makeshift office, cluttered with notebooks, diagrams, and samples of eco-friendly materials. Every night after work, Evelyn immersed herself in learning everything she could. She reached out to experts in the field, sending emails and making phone calls hoping someone would be willing to guide her. Most ignored her messages, but a few responded, offering tips or pointing her toward useful resources. Those small acts of kindness kept Evelyn going during moments when she doubted herself. One evening, while scrolling through an online forum for architects, Evelyn stumbled upon a post by Dr. Marcus Green, a retired engineer who specialized in green building technologies. His name wasn't familiar to her, but his credentials were impressive. Intrigued, Evelyn decided to send him a message, attaching photos of her prototype and briefly explaining her vision. To her surprise, he replied within a few days. "Your concept is ambitious," he wrote, "but I admire your passion. Let's talk." Their conversation began tentatively, with Evelyn sharing her struggles and Dr. Green offering constructive feedback. Over time, however, Their exchanges grew more frequent and detailed. Dr. Green was fascinated by Evelyn's resilience and creativity. He saw potential in her project and agreed to mentor her, helping her refine her design and address technical challenges. Under his guidance, Evelyn learned how to incorporate advanced features like modular components, which allowed parts of the house to be pre-built in a factory and assembled on site. This not only reduced costs but also made the construction process faster and more efficient. Together, they also explored ways to integrate renewable energy sources, such as solar panels and rainwater harvesting systems, ensuring that the homes were both affordable and environmentally friendly. As her design improved, Evelyn faced another major hurdle: funding. Building even a single prototype required money she didn't have. Banks rejected her loan applications, citing her lack of collateral and experience in the industry. Friends and family, though supportive, couldn't afford to contribute much. Determined not to give up, Evelyn turned to unconventional methods. She started crowdfunding campaigns, creating videos where she explained her mission and shared stories of families struggling with inadequate housing. At first, donations trickled in slowly, but as word spread, more people began to take notice. Local news outlets picked up her story, highlighting her perseverance and the potential impact of her project. One reporter described Evelyn as a modern-day trailblazer, and soon strangers from across the country were contributing to her cause. With the funds she raised, Evelyn rented a small workshop and hired a team of volunteers, mostly college students eager to gain real-world experience to help bring her prototype to life. It was a chaotic but exciting process. The workshop buzzed with activity as everyone worked together, cutting wood, assembling frames, and testing solar panels. Evelyn oversaw every detail, ensuring that nothing was overlooked. Late nights became the norm, but no one complained. They all believed in what they were building, not just a house, but a symbol of hope and possibility. Finally, after months of hard work, the prototype was complete. It was a modest, yet elegant structure designed to maximize space and functionality. The exterior was clad in recycled materials, giving it a sleek, modern look. Inside, the layout was open and airy, with clever storage solutions and energy-efficient appliances. Solar panels adorned the roof, providing power for lighting and heating, while a rainwater collection system ensured a steady supply of water. Evelyn stood in front of the finished product, tears welling up in her eyes. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start, a tangible representation of her dream. To showcase her prototype, Evelyn organized a community event, inviting local residents, journalists, and nonprofit organizations to see it for themselves. On the day of the event, the turnout exceeded her expectations. Dozens of people gathered around the house, marveling at its design and asking questions about how it worked. Neighbors who had once dismissed her ideas now looked at her with admiration. "This is incredible, Evelyn," one woman said, shaking her head in disbelief. "You've really done it." Among the attendees was a representative from a local nonprofit called Homes for Hope, which focused on providing affordable housing for low-income families. Impressed by Evelyn's work, they offered to partner with her to fund a pilot project. The organization agreed to cover the costs of constructing 10 homes in a nearby neighborhood known for its high poverty rates. For Evelyn, this was a dream come true. Not only did it validate her efforts, but it also gave her the opportunity to make a direct impact on people's lives. Construction began shortly afterward, with Evelyn overseeing every step of the process. She worked closely with contractors, ensuring that the houses adhered to her design specifications and quality standards. Watching the project unfold filled her with a sense of pride and fulfillment. Each house represented more than just shelter. It represented stability, dignity, and a brighter future for the families who would live in them. When the first batch of homes was completed, Evelyn attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony alongside representatives from Homes for Hope and members of the community. As families stepped inside their new homes for the first time, Evelyn couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with emotion. Parents hugged their children, tears streaming down their faces as they explored rooms that were clean, safe, and spacious. One mother approached Evelyn, holding her hand tightly. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You've given us a chance to start over." Evelyn smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. In that moment, she realized that her journey was about more than proving her critics wrong. It was about creating something meaningful, something that could change lives. The laughter she had endured in the boardroom now seemed distant and insignificant compared to the joy she witnessed in these families' eyes. Evelyn Carter had taken a bold step toward achieving her dream, and the world was beginning to take notice. But this was only the beginning. With the success of the pilot project, Evelyn's reputation began to grow. News of her innovative approach to affordable housing spread beyond her town, catching the attention of larger organizations and media outlets. People who had once laughed at her idea now scrambled to learn more about her company, which she proudly named Carter Innovations. Investors who had turned her away months earlier suddenly wanted a piece of the pie. But Evelyn wasn't interested in revenge. She simply wanted to scale her impact. She secured funding from ethical sources, ensuring that her mission, to empower underserved communities, remained intact. Through grit, determination, and unwavering belief in her vision, Evelyn had transformed a seemingly impossible idea into reality. And though challenges still lay ahead, she faced them with the same courage and resilience that had brought her this far. Evelyn Carter was no longer just a dreamer. She was a doer, a builder, and a beacon of hope for millions around the world. With the success of the pilot project, Evelyn Carter's life began to change in ways she had never imagined. The 10 homes built in partnership with Homes for Hope became a symbol of hope not just for the families who lived in them, but also for the entire community. Neighbors who had once been skeptical of Evelyn's vision now looked at her with newfound respect. Children played in front of their new houses, laughing and running freely in spaces that were clean and safe. Parents, no longer worried about leaking roofs or faulty wiring, they finally had homes they could be proud of. Word of the project spread quickly, and soon Evelyn was receiving calls from people across the country asking how they could bring her concept to their own neighborhoods. The media played a significant role in amplifying Evelyn's story. Colorado newspapers wrote glowing articles about her innovative approach to affordable housing, while national news outlets picked up on the human interest angle. One television segment featured interviews with the families who had moved into the new homes. A single mother named Lisa shared how her children's grades had improved since moving into a stable environment. "Before, we were living in a cramped apartment with mold on the walls," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "Now my kids have space to study, and I don't have to worry about them getting sick." Evelyn changed our lives. As the spotlight grew brighter, so did the pressure. Evelyn knew that one successful project wasn't enough. She needed to prove that her model could scale. But scaling meant overcoming even bigger challenges, securing more funding, navigating complex regulations, and convincing larger organizations to take a chance on her idea. It was daunting, but Evelyn refused to let fear hold her back. She reminded herself of the promise she had made years ago, to keep pushing forward no matter what. One day, as Evelyn sat in her tiny office reviewing blueprints, she received an email that would change everything. It was from a prestigious nonprofit organization called Global Impact Housing, which specialized in addressing global housing crises. They had seen the news coverage of her work and wanted to discuss a potential collaboration. At first, Evelyn thought it might be a prank. After all, just a few years earlier, she had been laughed out of a boardroom. But when she confirmed the email was legitimate, excitement bubbled inside her. This was her chance to take her vision to the next level. The meeting took place in New York City, a place Evelyn had only ever seen in movies. Walking into the sleek, glass-walled headquarters of Global Impact Housing, she felt a mix of nerves and determination. The executives greeted her warmly, clearly impressed by what they had read about her achievements. Over the course of several hours, Evelyn presented her proposal, a plan to expand her eco-friendly housing model to underserved communities around the world. She explained how modular designs and sustainable materials could reduce costs while maintaining quality. She also emphasized the importance of empowering local workers by training them to build and maintain the homes, creating jobs and fostering self-sufficiency. By the end of the presentation, the room was silent. Evelyn held her breath, waiting for their response. Finally, the CEO spoke. "Evelyn, your passion is undeniable, and your results speak for themselves. We'd like to partner with you to scale this initiative globally." Tears welled up in Evelyn's eyes as she shook hands with the team. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, not as a black woman trying to break into a male-dominated industry, but as an innovator whose ideas had the power to transform lives. The partnership with Global Impact Housing marked a turning point for Evelyn's company, Carter Innovations. With their support, she was able to secure additional funding and resources to launch projects in countries facing severe housing shortages. Her first international project was in Kenya, where millions of people lived in informal settlements with little access to basic amenities. Working closely with local leaders and engineers, Evelyn adapted her design to suit the region's climate and cultural needs. The homes were equipped with solar panels to provide electricity and rainwater harvesting systems to ensure a reliable water supply. Training programs were set up to teach community members construction skills, giving them a sense of ownership over the project. When the first neighborhood of eco-friendly homes was completed in Nairobi, Evelyn traveled there for the inauguration ceremony. Standing among the brightly painted houses surrounded by smiling families and cheering children, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. A young girl approached her, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. "Thank you for our new home," the girl said shyly. Evelyn knelt down to hug her, overwhelmed by emotion. In that moment, she realized that her work was about more than bricks and mortar. It was about dignity, opportunity, and the belief that everyone deserved a safe place to call home. Back in the United States, Evelyn's growing success caught the attention of investors who had previously dismissed her. Venture capitalists who had laughed at her proposal now reached out, eager to get involved. Some offered substantial sums of money, promising to help her expand rapidly. But Evelyn remained cautious. She remembered the values that had guided her journey from the beginning: sustainability, affordability, and empowerment. She turned down offers that prioritized profit over purpose, choosing instead to work with partners who shared her mission. Her decision paid off. By staying true to her vision, Evelyn earned the trust and loyalty of communities, nonprofits, and ethical investors alike. Carter Innovations continued to grow steadily, expanding its reach to countries like India, Brazil, and the Philippines. Each project brought unique challenges, but Evelyn faced them head-on, drawing strength from her team and the people she served. She often reminded herself of something Dr. Marcus Green had told her early in their partnership. Success isn't measured by how fast you climb, but by how many lives you touch along the way. Despite her achievements, Evelyn never lost sight of her roots. She frequently returned to her hometown, visiting the neighborhood where she had grown up. Many of her former neighbors still struggled with poverty, but Evelyn was determined to make a difference. She launched a program called Homecoming Initiative, aimed at revitalizing low-income communities through affordable housing and job training. The initiative not only provided homes but also created opportunities for residents to learn trades like carpentry, plumbing, and electrical work. Evelyn believed that true change came from within, and she wanted to empower people to build better futures for themselves. As her reputation grew, Evelyn became a sought-after speaker at conferences and universities. People were fascinated by her journey, from working 2 jobs as a teenager to becoming a global leader in sustainable housing. Her talks inspired audiences of all ages, particularly young women of color who saw her as a role model. "Don't let anyone tell you your dreams are too big," she often said during Q&A sessions. "If I can do it, so can you. Just keep believing in yourself even when others don't." By the time Evelyn reached her 40s, she had become a household name. Magazines hailed her as one of the most influential entrepreneurs of her generation, and she received numerous awards for her contributions to social innovation. Yet what brought her the most joy was seeing the tangible impact of her work. Families who had once lived in squalor now enjoyed comfortable, dignified homes. Children who had struggled to focus on their studies due to harsh living conditions now excelled in school. Communities that had been forgotten by society were revitalized thanks to Evelyn's vision. Looking back on her journey, Evelyn realized that every obstacle she had faced, the laughter in the boardroom, the rejections, the sleepless nights, had prepared her for this moment. Those challenges hadn't broken her. They had shaped her into the resilient, resourceful leader she had become. She often thought about the investors who had dismissed her idea as impossible. If they could see her now, standing at the helm of a global movement, what would they say? But Evelyn didn't dwell on past grievances. Instead, she focused on the future. There were still millions of people around the world without adequate housing, and she knew there was much more work to be done. With each new project, she pushed herself to innovate further, exploring cutting-edge technologies like 3D printing and biodegradable materials. Her ultimate goal was to create homes that were not only affordable and sustainable, but also adaptable to the changing needs of communities. Evelyn Carter's story was far from over. She had started as a young girl with big dreams in a small town, facing ridicule and rejection at every turn. But through sheer determination and unwavering belief in her vision, she had risen above it all. Today, she stood as proof that no dream is too big, no challenge too great, and no voice too small to make a difference. And as she looked toward the horizon, Evelyn knew that the best was yet to come. Evelyn Carter's journey was no longer just about building houses. It had evolved into something much bigger. Her eco-friendly housing model had become a beacon of hope for communities around the world, and her company, Carter Innovations, was now a globally recognized name. But Evelyn knew that success wasn't just about numbers or headlines. It was about impact. Every home she built represented more than 4 walls and a roof. It symbolized stability, opportunity, and dignity for families who had long been overlooked by society. As her influence grew, so did her responsibility to ensure that her work continued to create meaningful change. One of the most transformative moments in Evelyn's career came when she received an invitation to speak at a prestigious international conference on sustainable development. The event brought together leaders from various fields, scientists, policymakers, activists, and entrepreneurs, all united by a shared goal: finding innovative solutions to global challenges. For Evelyn, this was an opportunity to share her story on a stage unlike any she had stood on before. She prepared tirelessly for her speech, determined to inspire others while staying true to her roots. On the day of the conference, Evelyn walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. Dressed in a simple yet elegant outfit, she carried herself with quiet confidence. Looking out at the sea of faces, she felt a mix of excitement and humility. These were people who had dedicated their lives to making the world a better place, and here she was, a woman from a small town in the southern United States, standing among them as an equal. Taking a deep breath, she began to speak. "I didn't start this journey because I wanted to be famous," Evelyn said, her voice steady and sincere. "I started because I saw a problem that affected not only my community but millions of people around the world. Families were living in unsafe, unaffordable homes, struggling to survive day by day, and no one seemed to care. So, I decided to care." She went on to describe her early struggles, the late nights working 2 jobs, the dismissive laughter in boardrooms, the countless rejections she faced along the way. But instead of dwelling on the hardships, she framed them as stepping stones. "Every no I heard made me more determined to find a yes," she explained. "Every obstacle taught me something new, and every person who doubted me gave me fuel to keep going." The audience listened intently, captivated by Evelyn's honesty and passion. When she talked about the pilot project in her hometown and the joy she witnessed in the eyes of families moving into their new homes, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. By the time she finished speaking, the crowd erupted into applause, rising to their feet in admiration. Evelyn smiled, feeling a sense of validation she hadn't experienced before. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about inspiring others to believe in themselves and take action. The conference opened doors Evelyn hadn't anticipated. After her speech, She was approached by representatives from major organizations, including the United Nations and several multinational corporations. They were interested in collaborating with Carter Innovations to tackle housing crises in some of the world's poorest regions. One proposal stood out: a partnership with the UN's Habitat program to build 10,000 affordable homes in sub-Saharan Africa over the next 5 years. It was an ambitious goal, but Evelyn was ready for the challenge. To prepare for such a massive undertaking, Evelyn assembled a team of experts from diverse backgrounds: architects, engineers, environmental scientists, and community organizers. Together, they developed a comprehensive plan that combined cutting-edge technology with culturally sensitive designs. Modular construction techniques allowed them to prefabricate parts of the homes in factories, reducing costs and speeding up the building process. At the same time, they worked closely with local communities to ensure the homes met their specific needs and preferences. Training programs were established to teach residents valuable skills, empowering them to participate in the construction and maintenance of their own neighborhoods. The first phase of the project launched in Ethiopia, where thousands of families lived in makeshift shelters made of tin sheets and plastic tarps. Evelyn traveled to the region to oversee the initial stages of construction, immersing herself in the culture and forging connections with local leaders. Despite language barriers and logistical challenges, she remained committed to ensuring that the project reflected the values of sustainability and empowerment she had always championed. When the first batch of homes was completed, Evelyn attended a celebration organized by the community. Women dressed in vibrant traditional clothing danced to the beat of drums, while children ran through the streets laughing and playing. A local elder stepped forward to thank Evelyn, presenting her with a handmade necklace as a token of gratitude. "You have given us more than homes," he said. "You have given us hope." Evelyn accepted the gift with tears in her eyes, deeply moved by the moment. Word of the project's success spread quickly, drawing attention from governments and organizations around the world. Several countries reached out to Carter Innovations, seeking partnerships to address their own housing shortages. In India, for example, Evelyn collaborated with local authorities to construct earthquake-resistant homes in rural areas prone to natural disasters. In Brazil, she worked with urban planners to transform slums into thriving neighborhoods equipped with modern amenities. Each project presented unique challenges, but Evelyn approached them with the same determination and creativity that had defined her journey from the beginning. As her company expanded, Evelyn made it a priority to mentor young entrepreneurs, particularly women of color, who often faced similar obstacles to those she had encountered. She founded a scholarship program called Dream Builders, which provided financial support and mentorship to aspiring innovators from underserved communities. Recipients of the scholarship were invited to intern at Carter Innovations, gaining hands-on experience in sustainable design and social entrepreneurship. Evelyn believed that nurturing the next generation of changemakers was essential to creating lasting impact. Her efforts extended beyond business and philanthropy. Evelyn became an advocate for policy changes aimed at addressing systemic issues like poverty, inequality, and climate change. She testified before Congress, urging lawmakers to invest in affordable housing initiatives and renewable energy projects. She also partnered with schools and universities to develop educational programs focused on sustainability and innovation. Through these efforts, Evelyn hoped to inspire a broader cultural shift, one that prioritized compassion, collaboration, and long-term thinking. Despite her growing fame, Evelyn remained grounded. She continued to live modestly, driving an old car and renting a small apartment near her office. Friends and colleagues often joked that she could afford to buy a mansion if she wanted to, but Evelyn shrugged off the comments. "My wealth isn't measured in dollars," she would say. "It's measured in the lives we've touched and the communities we've transformed." By the time Evelyn turned 50, her legacy was undeniable. Carter Innovations had built tens of thousands of homes across dozens of countries, improving the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Her innovative approach to affordable housing had sparked a global movement, inspiring others to rethink how cities and communities were designed. Awards and honors poured in, including a humanitarian prize from a leading foundation and an honorary doctorate from a prestigious university. Yet, What mattered most to Evelyn was the personal stories of transformation she witnessed every day. One letter in particular stayed with her. It was from a teenage girl named Amina, who lived in one of the homes Carter Innovations had built in Kenya. "Before I used to study by candlelight because we didn't have electricity," Amina wrote. "Now, thanks to your solar panels, I can read and write without worrying about running out of light. My dream is to become an engineer just like you." Evelyn kept the letter pinned to her office wall, a reminder of why she had started this journey in the first place. As she looked back on her life, Evelyn realized how far she had come, from a young girl with big dreams to a global leader making a tangible difference. The laughter she had endured in that boardroom years ago now seemed insignificant compared to the impact she had created. Evelyn Carter had proven that no dream is too big, no challenge too great, and no voice too small to change the world. And, though her journey was far from over, she knew that the seeds she had planted would continue to grow, touching lives for generations to come. By the time Evelyn Carter entered her 50s, she had achieved what many would consider impossible. Her company, Carter Innovations, had grown into a global powerhouse, building affordable, eco-friendly homes in over 30 countries and transforming the lives of millions. But for Evelyn, success wasn't about accolades or wealth. It was about legacy. She wanted to ensure that her work would continue to inspire and uplift long after she was gone. This realization pushed her to focus not just on expanding her projects, but also on creating systems and structures that could sustain themselves without her constant involvement. One of the most significant steps Evelyn took toward securing her legacy was establishing the Carter Foundation. Unlike traditional charities, the foundation operated as a hybrid model, a mix of nonprofit initiatives and for-profit ventures designed to generate revenue while serving underserved communities. The idea was simple yet revolutionary: create businesses that solved problems and reinvest their profits into further development. For example, one of the foundation's first ventures was a manufacturing plant in India that produced sustainable building materials like recycled bricks and biodegradable insulation. The plant employed local workers, trained them in advanced construction techniques, and sold its products at affordable prices to other housing projects. Any surplus funds were funneled back into community programs, such as schools and healthcare clinics. Evelyn poured her heart into the foundation, treating it as both a passion project and a responsibility. She traveled extensively, visiting sites where the foundation's projects were underway. In Colombia, she met with farmers who had been displaced by conflict and were now learning carpentry skills through one of the foundation's training programs. In South Africa, she toured a village powered entirely by renewable energy, thanks to solar panels installed by the foundation's engineers. Each visit reinforced her belief that true empowerment came from equipping people with tools and knowledge, rather than simply handing out aid. But Evelyn didn't stop there. Recognizing the importance of technology in shaping the future, she launched an initiative called Innovate for Impact, aimed at fostering innovation in underserved communities. The program provided grants and mentorship to young inventors and entrepreneurs working on solutions to local challenges. One standout recipient was a teenage boy from Nigeria who had developed a low-cost water filtration system using locally sourced materials. With the foundation's support, he scaled his invention, bringing clean drinking water to thousands of families. Stories like these filled Evelyn with pride, knowing she was helping nurture the next generation of problem solvers. Despite her achievements, Evelyn faced new challenges as her company and foundation grew. Managing such large-scale operations required navigating complex bureaucracies, dealing with political hurdles, and addressing cultural sensitivities. In some regions, government corruption threatened to derail projects, while in others, resistance from entrenched industries made progress difficult. Evelyn learned to adapt, often relying on her network of allies, including Dr. Marcus Green, who remained a trusted advisor, to navigate these obstacles. She also leaned heavily on her team, empowering them to take ownership of different aspects of the work. "I may have started this journey alone," she often said, "but I couldn't have gotten here without the incredible people around me." As her influence expanded, so did her platform. Evelyn became a regular guest on major talk shows and podcasts, sharing her story and advocating for systemic change. She spoke candidly about the barriers she had faced as a Black woman in a male-dominated industry and urged audiences to challenge stereotypes and biases. "The world tells us we're too small, too weak, or too inexperienced to make a difference," she said during one interview. "But the truth is, everyone has the power to create change if they're willing to fight for it." Her words resonated deeply, especially among marginalized groups who saw her as proof that perseverance could overcome even the greatest odds. Her advocacy extended beyond media appearances. Evelyn began collaborating with policymakers to push for reforms in areas like affordable housing, education, and environmental sustainability. She co-authored a landmark report highlighting the economic benefits of investing in green infrastructure, which influenced legislation in several countries. She also joined forces with grassroots organizations to amplify voices from the ground, ensuring that policies reflected real-world needs rather than abstract theories. Through these efforts, Evelyn positioned herself not just as a builder of homes, but as a builder of movements. Yet amidst all the accolades and accomplishments, Evelyn never forgot the personal side of her mission. She maintained close relationships with many of the families whose lives she had touched, checking in regularly to see how they were doing. One family in particular held a special place in her heart: the Johnsons, a single mother, and her 3 children who had moved into one of the pilot homes years earlier. When Evelyn visited their neighborhood, she always stopped by their house, sitting down for coffee and conversation. Mrs. Johnson often joked that Evelyn was like an honorary aunt to her kids, someone who had believed in them when no one else did. It was during one of these visits that Evelyn had an epiphany. Sitting in the Johnsons' cozy living room, surrounded by photos of smiling children and handmade crafts, she realized something profound. Her work wasn't just about providing shelter. It was about creating spaces where dreams could flourish. The home she had built for the Johnsons had given Mrs. Johnson the stability to go back to school and earn her nursing degree. It had allowed her eldest son to focus on his studies and eventually win a scholarship to college. And it had given her youngest daughter the confidence to pursue her love of art, filling the walls with colorful paintings. Evelyn left that day feeling renewed, reminded of why she had started this journey in the first place. With this renewed sense of purpose, Evelyn decided to embark on her most ambitious project yet: a global campaign to eliminate homelessness. Within a decade. Dubbed Project Horizon. The initiative brought together governments, nonprofits, corporations, and individuals to tackle the root causes of homelessness: poverty, inequality, and lack of access to resources. Evelyn envisioned a world where everyone, regardless of background or circumstance, had a safe and dignified place to call home. To kickstart the campaign, she pledged a portion of Carter Innovations' annual profits to fund pilot programs in 10 cities across 5 continents. The launch of Project Horizon marked a turning point not just for Evelyn, but for the entire movement she had spearheaded. Thousands of people rallied behind the cause, volunteering their time, skills, and resources. Celebrities used their platforms to raise awareness, while corporations donated millions to support the effort. Even critics who had once dismissed Evelyn's ideas as impractical now praised her vision, acknowledging the tangible impact she had made. "What Evelyn Carter has achieved is nothing short of extraordinary," wrote one journalist. "She has shown us that compassion and innovation can go hand in hand." But perhaps the most rewarding aspect of Project Horizon was seeing ordinary people step up to lead. In Los Angeles, a group of high school students organized a fundraiser to build tiny homes for unhoused veterans. In Nairobi, a community collective transformed an abandoned lot into a vibrant garden village complete with shared kitchens and communal spaces. These grassroots efforts inspired Evelyn, reminding her that change didn't have to come from the top. It could emerge from anywhere, as long as people believed in themselves and each other. As the years passed, Evelyn continued to evolve alongside her work. She stepped back from day-to-day operations at Carter Innovations, entrusting leadership to a capable team she had mentored over the years. Instead, she focused on mentoring young leaders, writing books, and speaking at events around the world. Her memoir, titled From Impossible to Impact, became an international bestseller, offering readers a raw and honest account of her journey. Proceeds from the book went directly to the Carter Foundation, funding scholarships and community projects. Looking back on her life, Evelyn marveled at how far she had come. From a teenager working 2 jobs to support her family to a global icon changing the face of affordable housing, hers was a story of resilience, creativity, and unwavering faith. Yet, she knew she hadn't done it alone. Every success, every breakthrough had been the result of collaboration, of countless hands joining together to build something greater than themselves. Evelyn Carter's name was now synonymous with hope, innovation, and empowerment. But for Evelyn, the greatest reward was knowing that her work had planted seeds of possibility in the hearts of others. Seeds that would grow into trees of opportunity, sheltering generations to come. As she stood on stage at a gala celebrating Project Horizon's 5th anniversary, looking out at a sea of faces filled with gratitude and determination, Evelyn felt a deep sense of peace. Her journey had been long and challenging, but it had also been beautiful. And though the road ahead still stretched far into the horizon, Evelyn knew one thing for certain: the impossible was only impossible until someone dared to try. By the time Evelyn Carter reached her 60s, she had become more than just a name or a brand. She was a symbol of resilience and hope. Her journey from a struggling teenager in a small southern town to a global leader in sustainable housing had inspired millions. Yet, despite all her achievements, Evelyn remained deeply connected to the essence of what had driven her from the beginning: the belief that every person deserved dignity, opportunity, and a safe place to call home. As she entered this new chapter of her life, Evelyn focused on ensuring that her legacy would endure, not as a monument to herself, but as a living, breathing force for good. One of Evelyn's final major projects before stepping fully into retirement was Project Horizon's Global Summit, an event designed to bring together leaders, innovators, and activists from around the world to discuss the future of affordable housing and community development. Held in Johannesburg, South Africa, the summit drew attendees from over 50 countries, representing diverse fields such as architecture, technology, policymaking, and grassroots organizing. Evelyn opened the conference with a speech that reflected both her wisdom and her humility. "I've spent my life chasing a dream," she began, standing at the podium with a calm confidence that commanded attention. A dream that seemed impossible to many, but not to me. Because I knew something they didn't. I knew that when we come together, when we refuse to give up, when we believe in each other, there is no challenge we cannot overcome. She went on to outline the progress made under Project Horizon, highlighting success stories from cities and villages worldwide, but she also acknowledged the work still ahead. "We've built homes, yes, we've created jobs and empowered communities, but our job isn't done until everyone, everywhere has a roof over their head and a chance to thrive. This isn't just my mission anymore, it's ours. Together we can finish what we started." The summit became a turning point for the movement Evelyn had ignited. Attendees left inspired not only by her words, but also by the tangible examples of success showcased during the event. Panels featured representatives from communities that had implemented innovative housing solutions, while workshops provided practical tools for scaling these efforts. One particularly impactful session brought together young entrepreneurs who had received support from the Carter Foundation, allowing them to share their ideas with potential investors and collaborators. By the end of the summit, dozens of partnerships had been formed, promising to accelerate progress in regions still grappling with housing crises. After the summit, Evelyn decided it was time to step back from the spotlight. Though she remained involved with the Carter Foundation and occasionally advised on key initiatives, she handed over leadership responsibilities to younger generations. Her decision wasn't born out of fatigue, but rather a desire to see others rise to the occasion. "I've planted the seeds," she told her team during a farewell meeting. "Now it's your turn to water them, nurture them, and watch them grow." In her newfound free time, Evelyn returned to the things she loved most: reading, gardening, and spending time with family. She moved back to her hometown, purchasing a modest house near the neighborhood where she had grown up. It was a bittersweet homecoming. Many of her childhood friends and neighbors were gone, but the spirit of the community remained. Evelyn threw herself into revitalizing the area, using her experience and resources to spearhead local projects like renovating the community center and establishing a scholarship fund for high school students pursuing careers in STEM fields. Her presence in the town rekindled old memories and sparked new dreams. Young people who had once doubted their ability to achieve greatness now saw Evelyn as proof that anything was possible. On weekends, she hosted informal gatherings at her home, inviting aspiring entrepreneurs and activists to share their ideas and seek advice. These sessions became legendary, with participants leaving not only with practical guidance but also with renewed confidence in their own potential. Evelyn's later years were marked by reflection and gratitude. She often sat on her porch sipping tea and flipping through photo albums filled with images of smiling families standing in front of their new homes. Each picture reminded her of why she had fought so hard and how far she had come. Friends joked that she should write a second book, chronicling the lessons she had learned throughout her life. Though she laughed off the suggestion at first, eventually Evelyn agreed, realizing it might be a way to pass on her knowledge to future generations. Titled Building Beyond Walls, the book explored themes of resilience, collaboration, and purpose. Unlike her memoir, which focused on her personal journey, this book was written as a guide for anyone seeking to make a difference in the world. Evelyn shared anecdotes from her career, offering insights into overcoming adversity, navigating complex challenges, and staying true to one's values. She emphasized the importance of listening to those you aim to serve, reminding readers that real change begins with understanding. The book ended with a simple yet powerful message. Your voice matters. Your actions matter. Don't wait for permission to create the world you want to see. Building Beyond Walls resonated deeply with readers, becoming a staple in classrooms, boardrooms, and community centers around the globe. Teachers used it to inspire students to think critically about social issues, while business leaders cited it as a blueprint for ethical entrepreneurship. For Evelyn, the book's success was validation that her story could continue to inspire, even after she was gone. As the years passed, Evelyn's health began to decline. But even in her final days, she remained optimistic and engaged. Surrounded by loved ones, she spent hours reminiscing about her journey, laughing at old memories and marveling at how much the world had changed. When asked if she had any regrets, she shook her head firmly. Every challenge, every failure, every moment of doubt, it all led me here, she said, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Evelyn Carter passed away peacefully at the age of 72, leaving behind a legacy that stretched far beyond the houses she had built. Her work had transformed industries, influenced policies, and uplifted countless lives. Communities that had once been forgotten were now thriving, thanks to the systems and structures she had put in place. Young leaders she had mentored carried her torch, continuing to innovate and advocate for justice and equality. In her honor, the Carter Foundation launched the Evelyn Carter Legacy Fund, dedicated to supporting grassroots initiatives focused on housing, education, and environmental sustainability. A statue of Evelyn was erected in her hometown, depicting her holding a blueprint in one hand and reaching out to someone with the other, a testament to her vision and compassion. Every year on her birthday, people around the world celebrated Evelyn Carter Day, honoring her contributions by volunteering, donating, or simply committing to making their corner of the world a better place. Though Evelyn was no longer physically present, her spirit lived on in the hearts of those she had touched. From the single mother raising her children in a safe, eco-friendly home to the young inventor designing solutions to combat climate change, Evelyn's influence was everywhere. She had proven that one person's determination could spark a movement capable of reshaping the world. And so Evelyn Carter's story came full circle. What had started as a dream in a small southern town had grown into a global phenomenon, touching millions of lives and inspiring countless others to dream bigger, work harder, and believe in themselves. Evelyn hadn't just built homes. She had built hope, opportunity, and a brighter future for generations to come. In the end, she was more than a builder, more than an entrepreneur, more than a visionary. She was a reminder that the impossible becomes possible when we dare to try.